variety stores, gas stations, pharmacies, and more. Shop online at the most popular websites and stores for quality brands using your national debit or black cards. And take back your time to enjoy all the things that you love to do. Remember, instead of waiting in long ATM lines to withdraw cash, use your national bank cards today.
National Bank, always here.
In case you don't know us, you're just twisting that dial away and managed to bump into us. This is ZIZ Radio from out of St. Kitts.
Water is life, 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 life. Water is life, 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 life. Do just one thing,
Every drop count. Make sure you check for leaks around your house every day. Every drop count. When brushing your teeth, don't let the water run away. Come save the water, the water. Preserve the water right now. Every drop count. Save the water whenever you take in your shower. Every drop count. Make saving the water your business every hour. The water, the water, the water, the water right now. It's up to me and you and you and you and you. The water right now.
do just one thing.
A pleasant good morning to all our listeners in Radioland. Those of you in tune to us via radio, YouTube, and Facebook, welcome to another edition of our radio show, The Waterline. The Waterline is a radio program brought to you by the St. Kitts Water Services Department, typically every second and fourth Wednesday of each month. I am Shireen Owana, and it is my pleasure to take you through today's show. For today's show, we will have an open discussion, open conversation, and here you will have the opportunity to raise matters of concern that you may have. This morning in the studio with me is the water manager / water engineer, Mr. Cromwell Williams, and he's of course no stranger to this show. Good morning, Mr. Williams.
Hi, good morning, Sharina, and good morning to all the listeners to ZIZ Radio. It's a pleasure being here as usual.
Happy to have you, of course. Now, Mr. Williams, I would want to start our conversation by going back to the fact that we're in the dry season. And of course, by now, our listeners know very well what the dry season is. It's the low period of rainfall, and it's typically experienced in the tropics. Tell us a bit about the impact that this year's dry season had on our ability, or is having rather, because we are still in the dry season, on our ability to maintain a reliable supply of water.
Thank you, Sharina. We at the Water Services Department, we continue to inform the public how important it is, or how dependable rather we are as a country, as a small island, on the rainfall that we receive for the production of our water supply, our potable water supply, the water that comes into our homes, our businesses, etc. So we are in a long-term dry season. I think last year overall we would have gotten less rain than the average, the long-term average. And this year, January, February, March, April, we have received some information as to the rainfall that we would have received in those first 4 months of the year from the Met Office. And the indication are that this year is trending to be even drier than last year. So it means that we have to continue to be as careful in how we use water, because less rainfall simply means less water that is coming into our system for us to be able to distribute to the users.
Now, Mr. Williams, I know we are still in the midst of the dry season, and you indicated that last year went longer than the dry season normally would run. and this year it's even drier. Can we anticipate that perhaps, just a prediction, can you forecast for when the dry season does in fact come to an end? Will there be an improved situation, or it will, yes, we will get rainfall, but not any significant amount? What are the persons predicting?
Okay, so I must admit that I haven't had a chance to look at the prediction as to how much longer the dry season will go. But persons will realize that recently, like in the last week or so, we've been getting some showers, and that is good. We, for instance, where I live, there is we're fed by a small source, and the water is turned off at night because the enough water is not coming from the source to sustain a 24-hour supply at this time. And so just last week we got some rain, and within a day or two we were able to leave the water on during the night. So we were able to supply 24 hours, just on account of that small amount of rainfall. So in some areas where customers are fed by a surface spring, there is a direct response, a direct correlation between the rain and the being able to supply water, say, for 24 hours. So we are getting some rain now in May, and that is a trend that we have observed over the years, that May sometimes presents a sort of break in the dry season. You get some rain in May, and then go back to June. Typically it gets dry again, July, and then usually by about August, as we go into the height of the hurricane season, we tend to start seeing the rainfall increasing.
Now, Mr. Williams, you spoke of earlier that in your area, from time to time, the water is shut off. Now, in light of the dry season, there's been rationing in some areas. Does this mean that post-dry season, we get into the wet season, quote-unquote wet season, will the rationing be reduced, or will it come to an end? What can persons expect?
Well, it depends on the area you're living in. So for instance, take Bastia, which one would expect consumes about 40% or so of the overall demand on the island, and most of the water that is distributed in Bastia comes from the Bastia aquifer, so from groundwater. Now, the effect of groundwater of the rainfall is a delayed effect, because the water takes time to infiltrate into the ground and eventually reach the wells where we are able to pump it out. So there isn't an immediate impact when we get into the rainy season. We still will continue to have rationing, so to speak, because we still will not be able to meet the 24-hour demand in, say, the Bastia area. In an area like Keon, for instance, which is mostly supplied by, well, it's supplied by both groundwater and surface water, but what you would find is that in the wet season, because we will start getting a lot more water from the spring, we will be able to cut back on the rationing and maybe not have rationing at all, maybe during that wet season from about maybe September down to December. You would find that we typically in the Keon area, for instance, we might be able to not do the rationing.
What for areas like Shadwell?
Shadwell is part of the St. Peter's system. Well, it's part of St. Peter's and Bastia. But the St. Peter's area that includes Shadwell for us is fed mostly by groundwater. That is a well in Bastia that we pump the water from that well up to St. Peter's, and then we gravity feed back to the lower part of St. Peter's, including Shadwell, parts of Shadwell. And so that supply will continue to be, they will continue to have rationing, basically, even during the dry, even during the wet season.
Okay, so over the past, I think about 2 to 3 weeks or so, the Water Services Department was experiencing some challenges in the Southeast Peninsula area. Can you give us an indication as to where we are with that? What was the challenge, and any update in terms of how you're able to resolve it?
So the Southeast Peninsula is a dry area. We know that they have no source of their own. Water is pumped from the Bastia Aquifer via a 10-inch line over to the Southeast Peninsula. The problem that they have had, or we have had in supplying water to the Southeast Peninsula in the last couple of weeks, well, firstly I must apologize because it's been a great inconvenience to persons there. The problem really is one of transmission in terms of the 10-inch pipeline. There's a portion of the line that is basically we've had a number of corrosion holes basically had developed in the pipeline, and the pipeline is just about 30 years old. Those who can remember, it was installed when the road was built in the late 80s, early 90s. And so the pipeline is just about 32 years old. Typically, a pipeline should last you anywhere from 50 years up. So it is premature that we are getting these number of holes, so to speak, in certain parts of the pipeline. And so we have had, every time we fixed one, another one develops as the pressure increases on the line. So we are going to shortly be changing out, portions of that line. And fortunately, it will be, the area where it's affected is on the lower portion, like by the salt pond area. And we believe that is because the soil in that area was salty to begin with. And they did take measures, they did try to wrap the pipe in a sort of plastic material, but that was not adequate, and so the pipe has experienced early corrosion. So we are going to change out that pipeline, and we are going to replace it with a material that would be able to withstand the salty soil in that area. We are going to use what is called HDPE, which is a more synthetic high density polyethylene pipe, and so that will enable the pipeline hopefully to last 100 years once we install that. Okay,
so as we are now, the persons in the Southeast Peninsula, they have the normal supply of water?
No, matter of fact, we are doing the last bit of repair today. We are changing out another valve today, and we're hoping that once that is done, we will be able to restore their supply.
Okay, so what measure you've taken in the interim for persons to get water?
Right, so we have been trucking water to persons basically, so mostly everyone over there would have a cistern, and so we have been providing water to them via trucking.
Okay.
And if I might just add that might lead into the question about cistern. Over the years people have been saying, well, since we're getting more difficult, water is getting more difficult in St. Kitts, what about cistern? Why people often meet me and they say, have I advised the government to make construction of a cistern mandatory? And I'm saying it's the discussion that everyone needs to have. There needs to be broad discussion on it. But the persons don't have to wait for the government to mandate you to put in a cistern. If you have a cistern, it will help you whenever water department is unable to provide water. You have your backup supply. So you don't have to wait for the government to think. If you have an existing house or you're planning to build, you should try to incorporate a cistern, as it will help you.
Okay, well, Mr. Jones, on that note, We'll
Sorry.
pause to see if we have any listeners who are interested in chiming in on our conversation. Do we have any callers at this time? Okay, we don't seem to have any callers at this time.
Well, hold on. Before you go too far, though, I just want to let the people know the lines are now open and you can call 465-2555. As a matter of fact, we now have our first call.
Caller, welcome to the water line. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the water line.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'm feeling so, I don't even know the feeling I have concerning this water situation. Now, it don't sound ridiculous to you. We are buying water from Maria, from a desalination plant, and you are taking water from our aquifer, passing Freebase, go to the peninsula to supply the peninsula. When the peninsula is just a stone throw away from the ocean. Why you don't let them do this desalination plant over there and take our water and supply Bastia and St. Peter's, and we will need water from that same aquifer what you're taking over there? What the hell is going on? You have good water coming from Green Hill, and where that water is going to? Come on, man. Come on. Let them do the desalination water over there, and you use our water for our people here in Bastia. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for that, caller. If we don't have any other callers on the line, we'll continue. Mr. Williams, the caller seemed to be suggesting that the water that is being trucked to the Southeast Peninsula while they're experiencing challenges should be kept for persons in the Bastia area, and perhaps persons on the Southeast Peninsula should be seeking to get invested in desalination water. We have another call on the line, so we'll address that first call right after. Caller, good morning. Welcome to the water line.
Yeah, good morning, Miss Water and Mr. Water.
Good morning.
Yeah, I want to endorse the first caller there, sentiments. Now, my thing is this. I always say that there is a desalination plant down at Beltier, La Valley, and the housing chamber for the water engine don't go bad. The body of the desalination plant might have some rust on the body, but not the engine. Why don't they use that and use the seawater to help? And the next thing, there was a gift from Canada, a big truck, a water drilling, well drilling truck. What has become of it? Where is it? The engine is still good. Why don't they get that truck and repair whatever damage it need and drill all around St. Kitts? Because all around St. Kitts you get water. Even up on Brimson Hill, it has a well up there. And I'm saying this, the money that they're wasting doing other things, that money could afford to get a new desalination plant and let it help to feed the places in St. Kitts that need water. Those are my suggestions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you. Okay, so the first caller raised the question of the Southeast Peninsula. Why don't we force, for want of a better word, users on the Southeast Peninsula to put in the desalination plant? Now, that would be an issue of a matter for the policymakers to decide. As it is now, though, the Southeast Peninsula is being supplied by us, by the Water Department, and I know that it was anticipated back then, when Christophe Harbour was developing especially, that once the usage in that area gets to a very high proportion, that will actually be part of the further development. And to some extent that has happened, because if you look at the Park Hyatt, for instance, when the Park Hyatt was constructed, they installed their own desalination plant, so they don't get any water from us. But in terms of the residences and so on, they depend on the government supply. So I anticipate that if another large hotel were to be constructed on the Southeast Peninsula, that it is quite possible that they will be required to install their own desalination plant. I think we have another caller.
Caller, good morning. Welcome to the Waterline.
Yes, good morning. We were supposed to get a gift of a desalination plant. Our thing was Dubai. Did you ever receive it? And is it installed or anything?
Okay, I will answer that.
And our own desalination plant that we're supposed to build, how far on is it?
Okay, good question.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you for your questions. Before I get to that, back to the other caller, the second caller who spoke about drilling. Maybe I should take this point to update the public that we are about to get started in drilling in the Keon area. We would have had some delays, unfortunately. But, okay, we do have another caller, so we'll take the call.
Caller, welcome to the Waterline. Good morning.
Hello.
Good
Hello.
morning.
I'm back again. The same thing I was saying about the desalination plant. I heard you say that you did something with the people of the residents. Well, the government can build a desalination plant over there and charge them for the water to make back their money and avoid this lot of maintenance of pipe running from vast here to, and it sounds ridiculous. Ridiculous. So please, cut that line off and let them build a desalination plant. Either them, the business people, or the residents, or the government build one and make back their money. Because I hate to hear it. It sounds ridiculous. And we are buying water from Marriott, as I understand, in the Philippine area. Ridiculous. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. So the caller is suggesting that he understands for the commercial use, but for residents, perhaps the government can invest in one and charge the residents for the water. Your thoughts, Mr. Williams?
It is a complex situation in terms of how the government will choose to go about charging for water. Yes, it is possible to charge consumers in different areas different rates. If for instance the government decides, okay, well, these persons in this area is being fed from or being supplied by desalinated water which costs X amount, and the persons in another area are being supplied by a surface source which doesn't cost much, so we will charge based on the source and the cost of production of the water. That is an option, but these things must be discussed with all stakeholders. It is not just for these decisions to be made lightly. I think we have another caller.
Caller, good morning. Welcome to the Waterline.
Yes, good morning. No, I know there's a lot of talk about the water shortages and climate change, but until the public will get their act seriously, then I could consider you are taking this matter at a high level. Because in Pines Village there in Shadwell, there was a water issue on the outside that only government public works could have addressed, and the call was made, and the lady said it took 2 months before y'all came. So 2 months of water was being wasted. She went, personally spoke with someone, she called on the line, spoke with someone, they said they would come and they didn't come until 2 months. I called her just a while ago to make sure that it was resolved before calling on the radio. And she said they came last week after 2 months of it being wasted. So I can, there are some problems, yes, but I don't think the public was to take it as serious as they're making it to sound. That's all.
Thank you, caller.
Well, I don't know the full facts of that matter, but one thing I can assure that call, and I can assure every stakeholder and citizen, is that we take the matter of water conservation, water wastage, very seriously, very, very seriously. We don't. I mean, there are constraints, yes, but we take it very seriously. And so I might even mention here that one of the things we have done recently is we have established a 24-hour center, 24 hours, 7 days per week, where you can call, and that number again is 465-8000, 465-8000, or simply 141-141. And that is one of the first steps we have taken, because we don't want that you call someone who you know and then that the message is lost. So we want to make sure that all complaints, faults are reported, and once they're reported, we will deal with them. We will get to them. It shouldn't take us 2 months to get to any fault. And so that is, if that happens, that is an area where we will have to start working diligently on. But I want to assure that caller and all else that we take the issue very, very seriously. Caller.
Okay, we seem to have another caller on the line. Caller, good morning. Welcome to the water line.
Yes, good morning. In conversation with a friend of mine some time ago, he laid down a very, very brilliant idea to me. And I just decided to call in and relate it to the engineer there. This is what he said. If you can collect some of the water that comes from the mountain when we have heavy rain, have some kind of a catchment for it, and just use that for construction purposes, like and water plants, and each person who involved in construction, they have they go there and they buy for a low rate for just construction only, and watering plants and so forth, instead of everybody using from the main source to consume it and use it for construction purposes, like Cantec and these kind of people. Instead of they use the water from the catchment, they buy it at a low rate, and the water now for consumption, that is what we would use from the regular source. And I think it was a good idea, and I said, let me say it to the authorities, because I don't think you all will see everything. So that is my take. I hope it would mean something to us.
Okay, Mr. Williams, before you respond to that call, we have another caller on the line, so we'll hear from that caller. Caller, welcome to the water line. Good morning.
Morning. Can I be put on to Sandy Daniel, please?
Sorry, I think you're calling into ZIZ and this is the water line. You may have the wrong number. I think we should have another caller on the line. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the water line.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
I'm having a problem at St. Johnson Village over here, and I can't get it justified.
Okay, caller, we're listening.
I'm living back at the police station in St. Johnson. I have low voltage in water. They came and they checked it. They tell me I have to buy pipe. I bought the pipe them, and nobody come to fix the problem.
Okay, I'll have that investigated.
Okay, I mean, it's more than a year now. It's about 2 years now before the government changed, and you all changed, and I haven't. They told me I have to buy my own pipe. I went on about the pipe them, and they come to do nothing about it.
Okay, I will have that investigated.
Okay, appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you, caller. Do we have any other caller on the line? Caller, welcome to the water line.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I ain't serious about no water. I come on the radio and wasting people's time. I called in many times about pipe that leaking, and up to yet nothing doing. I mean, I tell Irish side to be no more, because I are just wasting people's time. I ain't doing no work. Just get up there and wasting the government time.
Thank Thank you for your input, caller.
We seem to have another call on the line. Welcome to the water line. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. William, you might be serious about the water issue, but I do not know how serious your workers out in the field are. Because just last month, when they were doing Spot Street, just over at Market Street, Low Market Street, they had a burst pipe. I went there myself, spoke to individuals, senior individuals who were there on the ground. They had about 8 guys here dealing from the water department, apart from public works personnel. The water pipe had broken in close proximity to where I live. And I went and the water was gushing. Went over there, tell them at least send one person just to look at it. Because it wasn't in an area where I could have turned off the water, stop the water from flowing. That was on the government end of the pipe. And it took them 3 days. Just over there at Spot Street, just to come and look at it. It took them 3 days, and we have been called probably about 6 different calls to up to the water department. 3 days they had water there, because they actually took video and took still shot of it. This is unacceptable, totally unacceptable with what we are going through right now. You need to talk to your workers out there, and let them get serious about what they're doing. Thank you. That's my input.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you so much.
Before you continue, I just want to let the public know we're going to entertain one more call, right, and then give you a chance to respond to the numerous questions and concerns that were raised. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Hello. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
The water system to you all. Good morning to everybody in the panel. But it's nothing like days of old. It's nothing like that. Everything just gone walk. Yesterday, right, I stood here and watched somebody calling down the station up there. About 5 times, telling the water, so when you come up to Buckley's, you go through an alley there and you left hand side, there's a pipe to their bus. And up to now, nobody answered the phone, everything at the bus. Guys, your party extension, what party extension? The phone is there to answer, nobody answer at all. Yes, man, this is you do this for them, but you won't pay. You need to look after you, I need to talk to all your people when they go do the government work. It's also stupid now. It used to be just a kid stand. I had to call somebody else, go bam, they come the next morning. And they fix it at the afternoon, they fix it, but now you look like since the old workers them leave, you look like nobody has studied, nobody know. I beg you all come to Buckley's, Dad, when you come up to the other swing up, you go to an alley there, you don't got to have it, and you see the pipe to run like a river. Are you please? I ask somebody a question, if I directly where it is, right in the alley, go right through, not as a rich alley, go right through some more. But you hear government just affect people for not these days.
Thank you, caller, for your input. Mr. Williams, we have a few questions and concerns.
Sure, yeah, and we're practically out of time, so I'll try and be brief. Well, one caller asks about desalination plant that we were supposed to receive from the United Arab Emirates. That project is ongoing. It's in the early stages. That plant will be sited across a Canada estate, close to the where the police have their shooting range. And so that project has started. You would not see actual construction as yet, but the preliminaries are being done, what we would call mobilization and the finalization of the planning. So that project is ongoing, and that plant sure will be, construction will be in full swing in the coming weeks and months. And so we are thankful to the government and people of the United Arab Emirates for the donation of that plant.
Before you continue, Sharena, the host of the next program for Frank and Candid just indicated that if you want to take the extra time, you can.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
So if you want to entertain more calls, you can.
Sure, if there are more callers, we are willing to
I don't
entertain
mind.
them.
I don't mind.
All right. So I'll let you continue what you were saying.
Right. Thank you very much. And so that's the desalination plant. I think the caller also inquired about, we had made mention of our intentions to construct a larger desalination plant. And so that is still in the planning stages. It takes time to plan a 2 million gallons per day or 3 million gallons per day desalination plant. So we are in the planning stages for that. There are a number of other questions that were raised. One caller spoke about drilling and the fact he said there's a well on Brimstone Hill. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't want the public to get the wrong information. To the best of my knowledge, Brimstone Hill gets its water from catchment, meaning water that falls on the property. They have a number of areas where they collect that water and they store it in a cistern. So Brimstone Hill is not fed by a well. Matter of fact, there have been times when it's been very dry and they have had to ask us to truck water for them. So I don't want that person to be giving the public wrong information.
Before you move on to your next response, Mr. Williams, we seem to have another caller on the line. So let's hear from that caller first. Caller, good morning. Welcome to the water line.
Good morning. Good morning. Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Good morning, sir. I believe I know you and you know me. Here we're going on. In Buckley, the thing what the lady just called about. Jiki could tell you and Alba could tell you, I don't call about that. You're almost 3-4 months now. And the water still running. 3-4 months I don't call about that. They come across by the project there, which by the hospital garden thing there. The water in there still running. You go down a little further by the movie, you got a house right there in the corner there, you got 2 pipes on this side, the water them they're still running. And you say we ain't got no water. I call in for these things, Jiki could tell you and Alba could tell you, I call in with this about 3-4 months now and see the lady just got to call and talk again about it. It is not fair, and I send a water there. And I don't like to see water waiting. My partner Cobra, he could tell you I have any bus point they call him and I tell him. But he tell me he handful. Right? So that's why I call him. Jiki could tell you 3-4 months I've been calling about these leakage and nothing doing. Nothing is doing. So I believe you, Mr. Williams, could do something about it. When you come in Buckley's, when you come down by the tire place, right on the corner right there, you're going to see, I feel like they're doing something there yesterday, but I still see a wet spot there. You come across on the project which by the hospital got a hydrant there, you're going to see water leaking right inside there. You go down a little further by the movie, when you go down on the left hand side, when you reach by the movie to go up, the left hand side you got a house right there in the corner, you got 2 pipes on the house there, still leaking. Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. I know you're going to get something done.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you. But in fairness to the workers, too, as you said, they were there working yesterday, and I'm not sure if they have completed, but I know that they were working there. And yes, the leak might have been there for an undue length of time. And as I've said that, yes, we have to step up on our response time, but part of it is really, as you said, one of our foremen would have said to you, his hands is full, and that is the case. We have not necessarily kept a pace in terms of manpower and resources that are needed as the system has expanded and expanded rapidly. Every day we are making new connections, every day we are extending the system, and sometimes it's more of a fight and a challenge to get the required human resource and other resources that are needed. But on top of that, yes, I think that there needs to be some tightening up on our team. I know that we are not perfect, but we also need to be more efficient in our operations as well. So I do take the criticism, and I take it as constructive criticism, because we at the end of the day, we have a duty to ensure that not only that we respond in a timely manner, but that the public gets that feeling, that impression that when they call the Water Services Department and they report a fault, a leak, that the department takes it as an urgent and a serious matter and will respond accordingly. But we have sorry, we are not perfect. We have dropped the ball, so to speak, in some instances, but we don't want you to get the wrong impression either that what you see as one or two mishaps is the summary and the overall response that the department puts out. The department does in fact respond seriously. So for instance, we might have taken a bit of time to get to the leak in Buckley's, but for the last couple of weeks we were working day and I would say even nights on the Southeast Peninsula, dealing with leak after leak after leak and other areas. So bear with us, there are quite a bit of work that we have to do sometimes, but our lack of an urgent response to a particular leak is not a reflection that we do not take what we do very seriously.
Mr. Williams, I think we have at least 2 callers on the line, so we'll hear from those callers and then we'll continue to respond accordingly. Caller, good morning. Welcome to the Water Line.
Good morning, and how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good morning to everyone. Mr. Williams, you in particularly, I just want to make a positive comment because I heard you say some things. There are 2 things I heard you speak up just now, and I was very impressed. Let me first say, sorry, I wish everyone else who are guests on these talk shows heard what you said, and I will said what you said. You accept their criticism, and you're going to try and be more efficient. Instead of dodging, you were man enough, a human being enough, someone who understands enough to make those 2 comments, and I applaud you for that. You have a good day, Mr. Williams.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Goodbye.
caller. We seem to have lost the other caller.
No, I'm here.
Okay, caller, welcome. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I called to compliment one of your workers. I listened to the comments that's been made. I mean, they might be harsh, but they're positive still. But one of the workers you have who lives Sandy Point and work tirelessly, they call him Photo. He's a very vibrant, quiet, and respectful worker, and I just called to commend him because there are some people, yes, who are not doing the work, but I'm sure he's doing his work. That is my intake. That's my input. Sorry.
Thank you very much,
I appreciate that feedback so much.
Yes, go ahead, you're live.
Caller, good morning. Welcome to the Water Line.
Morning. Yeah, what I find with some of these workers, sometimes when you report a leak, they just go out there and see it, but sometimes when they work in nature, they work. The concrete and thing might be who break or cut. They just tell themselves they can't take on that and they just put a blind eye to that. Anyway, all the best.
Okay. Appreciate that feedback very much.
Yes, caller, you're live. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Williams.
Morning.
I'd just like to start off by saying I second the guy Christopher a while ago with the comment that he put towards you, for you. I am one that does see leaks places and will report, call the different people. And Mr. Cathy says, number 10 we talk to him. He do see me and I tell him, we're going to mention, and he said, well, bye, watch it. This is the problem we have there. We can't deal with it. We have to certain things, so you just have to late one until we can deal with it. So it's saying that I wouldn't say that you are not serious about it. You are making an effort. And one of the things people got to understand, because I see it happening. A lot of times some projects, road projects being doing are repairing, and they just repair with a repair, a pipe bus, a main line with a bus, and they got to be coming and patching. I think these things, whenever you're going to put in roads, and the lines are in these, check the quality before you could even start to do the road. That is how it should be done, as far as I can say. That's the best way. You can put an example, tailors, just to the back of Washi, from the stretcher as they come across. You don't have about some 20 bus area in the area that they just don't pay to place to them, cover it back up, cast it back everything, and cutting from it, gone again. So it's a lot of things, yes, but yeah, I'm going to do Louis. And like I said, I'd like to just check on the motion of the guy, well, like saying, comment to Mr. Williams for standing up as a man and taking man blows, right? And not running, bobbing and weaving like some leaders do.
Thank you, caller. We have another caller on the line. We'll hear from that caller as well. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the water line.
Good morning. I would like to ask a question. Is public road and the water department connected in any way?
Caller, can you repeat the question? We're struggling to hear you.
I was asking if the public works and the water department is connected in any way. Why I ask that is because you find it has many places, especially on the main road and off roads, where the water department came, did the road up to 645, and they just leave it like that. A week, month, some for years, and no one comes back to fix the road so that they can drive properly, especially though you have to 300 on hand. How we fix road, it has a spot there that you have to drive off the sidewalk sometimes in people yard to get back on the road for about 5 years. And no one wants to do this. Came back to fix it. In Child, the same thing on the road. People have to stop to let other people pass, and that is been up for over 2 years. Come on. So I want to know if public roads and water is connected. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you. Yes, that is a very pertinent question you have asked, and the answer is yes. We are connected. We're almost like twins, like co-joined twins. And this should not happen, therefore. We have recently taken steps. The water department has been and is required to notify Public Works as soon as whenever we have to open the road to make any repairs to water lines. And the Public Works, when we met recently, had indicated that sometimes my officers at the water department do not send the information as soon as possible. And so we have set up one chat group where all of us would be informed as soon as, before when possible, but if not before, as soon as possible, whenever water department has to open the road. Now, the reinstatement, the fixing of the road, we know the Public Works sometimes have some challenges because we know the asphalt plant was down and sometimes it goes down. So that would be one of the reasons why the repairs take so long. Also on the Island Main Road, because the road was still under warranty with the contractor, Surrey Paving, so Public Works itself would not have gone and done the reinstatement. So they would have had to, Surrey Paving would have had to do the reinstatement because the road was still under a 1-year warranty. I think that warranty has just come to an end. So going forward, Public Works will be directly responsible for the reinstatement. But once the road was under warranty, they had to basically coordinate with Surrey Paving in terms of making the reinstatements or the repairs. That refers to the Island Main Road. But for the other side roads, minor roads, those are always the responsibility of Public Works Department. And one of the unfortunate reason is that sometimes it appears that there was not proper communication between the two departments. But that is, I will say, inexcusable, seeing that we both have the same ministry, the same permanent secretary, the same minister. We really should be coordinating better. And I hope that we can, both departments can, really improve on that going forward. Because I'm a road user, and I've always said to my colleagues that this is unacceptable from a road user standpoint.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Do we have any other callers on the line? We don't appear to have any other callers, Mr. Williams. I think there's one question that we may have overlooked though. Earlier on, the same caller who asked about, who suggested that there's a well that is accessible at Brimstone Hill. He also questioned whether or not we knew about a desal plant at La Valley and why we're not using it.
Okay. I happened to visit the desal plant at La Valley recently. Of course, I was surprised at how intact the plant was, even though there was some vandalism, but the main components of the plant are still fairly intact. The government, who I think has some kind of say in terms of who owns the plant, I don't know. I can't speak from where I sit as to who owns the plant, but I'm sure the government would have some stake. And so a decision will have to be made as to what will be the future of that plant. Now, it will cost a lot of money, I'm sure, to bring that plant back into use, because, as I said, though the main components are there, a lot of the electrical controls and so on have been vandalized. But it has some value, and so a decision will have to be made, I hope, in the near future as to what becomes of that plant. That plant, we know, was constructed specifically for providing water to the proposed La Valley Golf Course at the time, but that project went into some problems, did not complete, and so the plant basically remains there.
Okay, if we don't have any other calls on the line, I think it's safe to say that we could bring the show to a close. Mr. Williams, do you have any final words, anything you'd like to say in wrapping up?
Well, I always do when it comes to water. I want to thank the callers. I want to thank the public for their interest in what's happening with our water situation in St. Kitts. The situation overall is not very dire. But if we don't continue to take certain steps, then it would only get worse. But as a department and as a government, we intend and we are taking steps to address the challenges that we have. One of the main challenges, of course, is finding additional water. The country is developing, has been developing. Government has announced 2,400 houses to be constructed in the next 4 or 5 years. We have to think of what that means for water. That means we have to expand not only drilling more wells, not only construction of desalination plant or plants, but also increasing our storage, the volumes or the sizes of our storage reservoirs. So it's going to cost a lot of money, but not only the money, because that might be easy, but it's also going to require the right technical capacity, and sometimes we overlook that. The human resource capacity. We need persons who are properly trained in the science of water management, and so all that is going to be required in the coming years if we're going to continue to manage our water resources in a sustainable and in a resilient manner. So I will stay there for now, but I want to say that even though some callers would have expressed their disappointment that our response sometimes to leaks doesn't seem to be as urgent as it ought to be, I want to say to you, the consumers, all consumers in St. Kitts, that at the end of the day, the water department might not be perfect in our response, but that does not mean that you as a user and a consumer should in any way not do your part in being vigilant and being as helpful as possible in dealing with leaks that you may have as well as that you may see as you move around in the public domain. I give you our assurance that we will continue to work to be more efficient in our response to leaks and so on. So I want to thank you again.
Okay, Mr. Lim, stemming from your point of response time, I use this opportunity to remind our listeners that, again, we have a hotline center, and so we encourage you to utilize the numbers. Call the hotline. Remember, that is the most efficient way to ensure that you will get a quicker response time. It also would mean that Mr. Williams and other relevant persons, they have a direct place where they can go and verify the queries that you would have made. So we encourage you to call 465-8000 or 141. Also, we remind you that for other inquiries outside of faults, you can contact us at 467-1005 or 467-1447, or you can email us at water.services@gov.kn. We want to thank you, all of our listeners, for choosing to join us this morning on the Waterline. Thanks to those of you who called and engaged in very meaningful discourse this morning, whether it was to ask a question or make a suggestion or give a commendation. We want to thank you for propelling us to continue our duty to not just be any service provider, but to be a quality service provider. And as we sign off, we hope that you would be with us again for our next edition of The Waterline on Wednesday, 7th June. Thank you.
Water is life, 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 life. Water is life, 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 life. Do just one thing,
Every job count. Make sure you check for leaks around your house every day. Every job count. When brushing your teeth, don't let the water run away. Come save the water, preserve the water right now. Every job count. Save the water whenever you take in your shower. Every job count. Saving the water.